Hello, everyone. I am Heather Herring, the Education Manager of the Northeast Resource Recovery Association, and I want to warmly welcome you to our summer webinar series. Today, we will be hearing about the battery of things, lithium safety. Next slide, please. Do you need professional credits? You will receive 1 hour of professional development credit if you complete the survey and request it for the live webinar. Webinars are recorded and made available for those who registered. You can complete your learning with webinars all summer long and visit our new website at nrrarecycles.org. Next slide. For our recycling facility operators, we have webinars throughout the summer to choose from and learn. You can register online. Next slide. For our educators, administrators, and community members, we have webinars to share. Although I list these here on 2 different slides, all webinars are open to all. Next slide. I want to set the table for GoToWebinar. You will not be able to be heard by the presenters or the participants on GoToWebinar. If you cannot hear the presenters, click on the audio and computer audio. If that does not work, try clicking on phone call and follow those directions. We hope you ask questions and the presenters will answer them if time allows. Click on questions and keep it short. Next slide. Here is a bit about the Northeast Resource Recovery Association. We are a recycling nonprofit. We have over 400 members, primarily municipalities, and we were founded nearly 40 years ago. Next slide. Well, what do? We do cooperative marketing and purchasing. We enable communities to manage their own recycling programs. We have over 40 programs, including single stream and municipal solid waste. And we connect sellers of recyclables to purchasers. Next slide. We also provide education and technical assistance through workshops, facility tours, annual conference, and webinars like these, technical assistance, and school club programs. Next slide. And now I would like to introduce the presenter of the Battery of Things, Lithium Safety. This is for Sean Plasse. He is the Northeast Program Manager of Call to Recycle. And I'm now turning over the presentation to you, Sean.
Thank you, Heather. Can you hear me?
I can.
Happy to be here. Appreciative to the NRRA for having us. We're big fans of everything you folks do. The premise today is that lithium is the battery of things, in particular, the Internet of Things. These are all the devices that are coming at us that are connected to the Internet, the smart devices that are being developed. As Heather said, my name is Sean Plasse. I'm the program manager for the Northeast region of Call to Recycle, an Atlanta-based stewardship organization that recycles batteries around the nation. And of particular importance is that batteries aren't just about environmental management anymore. They're really about risk management, and that's the premise. I want to make your facilities safe from lithium fires. I'm going to start with a quick video. This is a defining moment for us. This is what a lithium fire looks like. This is a FedEx truck in Ohio that was carrying some of our batteries. It was also carrying batteries from another battery recycler. Ultimately, it was not attributed to either us or them, but we take responsibility for it. The driver was safe, but obviously pretty scary on a major highway. The truck was destroyed. It was a wake-up call for our organization. And I'd like you to kind of learn from our lessons so this doesn't become your waste facility. Let's switch quickly to a more positive video. These are 2 lithium fires. On the left, it will be attempted to be put out with vermiculite. On the right is a product called CellBlockEX. Vermiculite does not extinguish fires. Some of you may be holding DDR batteries, that's damaged lithium batteries, in containers containing vermiculite. We've switched to this new technology, CellBlockEX, which I'll return to later in the slideshow. But I want to show you just how some of the fire safety features have increased for lithium in the coming years. And if you had a container with a lithium battery in your facility overnight and it was in vermiculite, that fire could burn for a long time. Let's switch back to the slides here. This is Tioga County, New York. This is a recycling facility that had a major fire in January of this year. It was attributed to a cell phone. We take this really seriously. Number one, for the safety of staff. We don't want anybody to get hurt by a lithium fire. Number two, the facilities are really expensive to rebuild, and especially in smaller towns that might not have the resources to rebuild a major facility. Also, the insurance costs go way up if you do have one of these fires. So it's something that greatly affects the recycling community. It's also hard to track. There's one guy, Ryan Fogelman, he kind of tracks these in a professional way, but there's no real central database on lithium fires around the country. So it's hard to even attribute, because the batteries are so small, it's hard to know how many of them are happening. So based on that, our feeling is we have to do everything we can at these facilities to keep them safe, and just assume that lithium fires are an issue, and try to mitigate them with a strong recycling program. I'm going to start with a quick story. So I have a friend who works in fire safety, and he wanted to demonstrate the power of a lithium battery. So he went to a waste facility and he cleared a big space in one of their warehouses. He put a table in the middle and took a tablet, a computer tablet, and laid it on top of the table face down. And he had the staff gather around in a big circle. He brought the director of the facility over and gave him a smock and gloves and a mask and goggles and so forth, brought him to the table and handed him a hammer and a nail. And he said, drive this nail into the back of this tablet. So he did that, and he had done this demonstration before, and it was typically a lot of sparks, but in this case, the battery was fully charged. The nail became a missile, basically a projectile or a bullet, and zipped past the director's head and flew 2 stories up in the air and drove itself into a metal ceiling. So the guy could have been killed. The demonstration was effective, obviously, but he doesn't do it anymore. So the question we want to ask is, how did these batteries become so powerful? Why was this demonstration done in a waste facility? What happens if this tablet's in a Gaylord and someone drops a television on it, which is also part of e-waste? Where does that energy go? Does it create a fire in the Gaylord? How does that disperse? What trends are happening in the battery world? Are more of these devices coming? And how does a recycling program mitigate this risk? I'm going to tell you a fable from ancient China. There was a young man, he became the emperor. And the first thing he wanted to do when he became an emperor was conquer his neighbor, but he didn't know how. So he went to a sage, the top meditation master in the nation, and asked for advice. And the sage said, sure, I'll tell you how to conquer your neighbor, but you're going to pay me in rice every month. And he brought out a chessboard. On the first square, he put 1 grain of rice. He said, this will be the first month. On the second square, he put 2 grains. He doubled it. So this will be the second month. On the third square, he put 4. On the fourth square, he put 8. So it doubled every square every month. And he said, you're going to pay me in rice until we get to the end of the chessboard. The young emperor thought about it and said, well, that doesn't sound too bad, and accepted that as the agreement. The sage gave him the advice, and he went over and conquered his neighbor. And so the emperor began to pay the sage in rice, 1 grain, first month, 2, then 4, then 8, and so forth. Well, not a lot happens until you get what's called the second half of the chessboard. And that's when the numbers became very large, millions of grains of rice, hundreds of millions, billions. And very quickly after getting past those first 32 squares, the sage had all the rice in the empire. Now the emperor, starving and destitute, realized he'd been tricked, so he had the sage beheaded. What does that look like mathematically? It looks like this graph. This graph shows what is actually a computer science graph. This is called Moore's Law. So Gordon Moore, back in the 1970s, he became the co-founder of Intel, that make computer chips, and he predicted that every 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, the number of bits on a chip, the zeros and ones, which is how much information can be stored and processed, would double on chips every 18 months to 2 years. He predicted this, and everybody thought he was crazy, that there was no way you could double the amount of bits on a chip. Well, it's proven to be a law. It's so accurate that it's basically never been missed since the 1970s. You're looking at 50 years. But what's fascinating about it is, similar to that Chinese fable, is that the real action happens in what's called the second half of the chessboard. So at the beginning of this graph on the far left is 1970. The number of bits on a chip have been doubling every 18 months or so till today's day and age. We're right here on the elbow, around 33 of those iterations. And then up at the top of this graph is 5 years from now. So think about all the computers, all the processors, all the phones, and everything you have, how much they've advanced since the 1970s, and then look at the next 5 years. And for reference, 2026 and a half will be double the top of this graph. And then a year and a half later will be double that. So this is why people like Elon Musk talk about artificial intelligence taking over the world, those kind of things, because the mathematics of how smart these computers are going to become is just off the chart. There's a process called convergence, and this is when you integrate, it's an integration of disparate technologies into a single integrated system. So you take a whole bunch of technologies that are developed separately, and then you integrate them into one device. So what would happen if you've got high definition video cameras? You've got 3D VGA cards. These are 3D video games that the kids are playing today. These are graphical cards, computer chips. You've got artificial intelligence, computers that teach themselves. You've got high-speed 5G cellular networks. You've got lithium batteries and so forth. All these batteries are developed, all these devices are developed separately, and then they're all brought together into new combinations. This new combination creates something called emergence. Emergence is a scientific principle that says the parts don't predict the whole. There's no way to anticipate what's going to be created when you combine these devices. It's like saying hydrogen gas plus oxygen gas creates a liquid, water. You wouldn't predict a liquid would come from two gases, but scientifically it's actually more complicated. It's like saying 3 + 5 = cheese. It's that when you combine these devices, you have no idea what's gonna happen. So for example, that's a Tesla vehicle. I used to work for Solar City, a major solar company, which then got bought by Tesla, and I used to sell Tesla lithium Powerwall batteries for backing up homes. My friend got the first Model 3 Tesla in Vermont, and Tesla wanted to make self-driving cars. So what did they do? They put high definition video cameras on all their cars, 8 of them. And every day they videotape everywhere cars go across the entire country. Tesla records more data in a day than Google. That data gets processed through these video game cards, which nobody expected, but they're actually really good at processing 3D information. Tesla told the computer, just record what humans do and then learn to do that. You don't even have to program code in the computer. You just say, do what a human does and process that through artificial intelligence. All this is connected through high-speed cellular networks, and the cars run on a lithium battery. So my friend got the first Model 3. He downloaded the self-driving software. We went on the highway. He said, type in an address. We typed in the tablet. He said, take your hands off the wheels. I did. The car took off. It turned on its own blinker. It passed cars on the highway. It started to rain. It turned on its own windshield wipers. When it got to the exit, it turned on its blinker, took the off-ramp, and stopped at the red light. That exists now, and what's coming in the next few years is going to be even crazier. But the point is, nobody would have predicted that from all the devices, you know, high definition video cameras and 3D video games, so forth. That's emergence. So these devices will converge, and then they'll emerge into something new at an accelerating rate we can't predict. I love this graph because it's from 2016 in The Economist. It was predicting the dynamic lithium battery market. I'm going to start on the right side. This is the cost of lithium batteries as they predicted it in 2016, and indeed it has happened. It's dramatically dropping year over year. This graph is also interesting, going up, the red line. This is called power density or energy density. It's the amount of energy per volume or mass of these batteries. So the batteries are getting smaller and smaller, but more and more powerful and more affordable. The reason is because on the left side, all these companies like Panasonic and so forth have invested massively in the infrastructure of manufacturing lithium batteries. So these factories are already built around the world. They are cranking out lithium batteries at a faster and faster rate. They're putting more money into research. The batteries are getting cheaper, smaller. And when you link all these small, powerful batteries together, you can create even bigger batteries. So that's what a Tesla vehicle is. It's hundreds and hundreds of smaller batteries that look like a AA battery all linked together. So batteries are here to stay. These are built. So lithium is basically the reality for the next few years. They're so important that the Nobel Prize committee said, lithium batteries have laid the foundation of a wireless, fossil fuel-free society and are of the greatest benefit to mankind. And for that reason, they awarded these 3 gentlemen the Nobel Prize in Chemistry last year. Lithium batteries have changed the world at the same level that the electric grid changed it back in the 1800s with Nikola Tesla and those folks. It's completely changed the world. I've read an article about fishermen in a poor country in Africa. Their currency was really unstable there, so they were buying and selling fish on the docks using their cell phones and cryptocurrency like Bitcoin because it was a safer way to buy and trade. So that's happening all around the world, and with satellites coming that will connect to the internet launched by SpaceX, like they're going to add billions of people to the internet, and more transactions, more cryptocurrencies, more business is going to be generated in the coming years. It's truly revolutionary. So this leads to the Internet of Things. Internet of Things are devices that are connected to the internet. Right now, there's about 10 billion in 2020. By 2025, they're predicting 62 billion, a 400% increase in lithium manufacturing capacity. So imagine your fire safety risk now and multiply that by 400%. There's going to be more lithium. It's going to be in everything, and you have to be prepared for that and think strategically for that. Example would be drones. Verizon expects to add another 1 million drones in the next year or two. These drones will have rechargeable batteries in them. So if you're having a wedding and your grandmother's in California and she can't be there, and you're in New York, maybe she's in a nursing home, you'll be able to have a drone flying around that will follow your cell phone in your pocket, videotape the entire thing, beam it in real time, live stream to your grandmother on the West Coast. These devices already exist. It's just a matter of scaling them and selling them. Again, these batteries are going to end up in waste facilities around the Northeast. Here's the major categories of the Internet of Things. Some people call it the Internet of Everything. Some people call it the Enterprise of Things because it affects all businesses, but these are kind of the big categories. Wearables, you probably know somebody who has an iWatch, a Fitbit. They're going to monitor your health and so forth. Smart homes, you probably already have an Alexa or a portable speaker with lithium battery in it. Healthcare, portable glucose monitors and so forth are all going to be lithium rechargeable. Small businesses, most of you are probably watching this on a laptop provided by your work. Banking is going more and more online. Education, how many of our kids right now are being educated online? In fact, Los Angeles school system, the second biggest in the nation, announced yesterday no kids are going back to school because of COVID. So all kids, about 600,000, will have an online education this fall. Retail, I'm sure many of you have ordered food recently for curbside pickup over your phone. Likewise, e-commerce, most of us have been shopping on Amazon and so forth recently from our phones. Transportation, you're going to see electric bicycles in droves fairly soon, and likewise electric cars like the Tesla Model 3 and so forth. Agriculture, many farmers are now switching to tablets and drones and robots to manage their fields and to scan them for moisture content and so forth. Smart cities, already in the Netherlands, they track electric bicycles, they track traffic. So in places like San Diego and so forth, they're now tracking parking spaces. So pretty soon your car will drive you to the nearest parking space. You won't actually have to drive it yourself. It'll just know where there's a parking space. This all affects insurance, interestingly. So if you've got I know my health insurance company, if I have some type of Fitbit and I track the number of steps and so forth I walk, I get a deduction of my health insurance. Supply chain, obviously, Amazon and so forth, they're building robots. They'll soon have drones that will be flying same-day delivery drop-offs at our houses. And utilities, I actually worked for Tesla. I was selling lithium Powerwall batteries for backing up homes, particularly that had solar. The biggest utility in Vermont, Green Mountain Power, started a program where people could lease lithium ion Powerwalls from the Tesla program for a short fee every month. So they had backup in case a snowstorm knocked out the power. But the fascinating thing is these batteries were connected to the internet, and so Green Mountain Power, the utility, could tap into them at any time. So there's thousands of these batteries spread out across Vermont, and anytime Green Mountain Power needs some extra power, they just suck power out of these thousands of Powerwalls in people's houses. And that saves them a ton of money. I think they saved millions of dollars in the first year they implemented the program because they don't have to buy extra power from a natural gas plant, which is expensive. They can just pull it out of Vermont residents' homes. So everything is going to be connected to the internet, basically. That little virus in the left-hand corner, that's the coronavirus. It has increased all of this. More kids are being educated at home. Less people are going to banks. More of them are doing banking online. And people are buying retail and so forth from their phone. Everything that has happened in the last few months has just accelerated the Internet of Things. Let's take a quick look at a day in the life of the Internet of Things. Say you're allowed to travel again. You've got your mask on, you're at the airport, you're rushing home from a business trip, you're tired, you're hot. You're coming home to an energetic dog, an energetic teenager, an overgrown lawn, a hungry, finicky family that all likes their food prepared in special ways, you've got a napping baby, and you kind of been drinking too much beer on your trip. Well, here's a suitcase that's a robot. Instead of having to push it around the airport, it links to your phone and follows you everywhere you go. So this is just like a little tethered puppy dog that will be 2 feet behind you. It goes around corners, navigates people and objects and so forth. So you're going through the airport, you get in your car, you realize your dog has run away again, you check your phone, you find your dog where its location is based on this smart collar. You go over, you pick up your dog on the way home from your neighbor's yard. Your energetic teenager greets you at the door and you've brought her a gift. You've got a basketball with a battery in it that links to her cell phone. It tracks how many times she dribbles the ball, how many shots she takes, how many miles she runs, so she can go play in the driveway and get a good exercise workout. The overgrown lawn needs to be mowed, so you get on your phone, you send your robot lawnmower out. It's self-driving, it's automated. It starts mowing the lawn for you, keep it nice and clean. You start the barbecue, you picked up 4 steaks on the way home. You get 4 different thermometers. You put them in because every family member is finicky on their food. They want a different temperature on their meat. It all syncs to your iPhone and alerts you when every piece of meat is done. All these are rechargeable batteries. Your baby is taking a nap, wakes up and uses the bathroom. This diaper actually alerts you on your phone that your baby needs to have a diaper change. I jokingly call it the crap app. But seriously, your baby will be monitored to your phone. This is the Internet of Things. And like I said, you drank too much beer on the way home. This is one of my favorite clients. They're based in Vermont. Great client called Beta Technologies. They developed from scratch the world's first purely electric airplane. What's fascinating is it can fly horizontally very fast, but it also takes off vertically. Major lithium batteries in this thing. And the reason they developed is their funder does organ donations. And those are tough to do on commercial airlines. So they wanted a really fast plane that can land vertically on top of a hospital and travel a few hundred miles and recharge in less than an hour. And so Beta is basically the Tesla of these airplanes. They're developing charging stations around the country. They'll have a fleet of these and organs will be shipped back and forth. So it's really amazing how everything is going to be connected to the internet. Everything will be self-driving. Everything will be lithium based. So how are you going to manage the convergence of all these technologies that are unpredictable, that are accelerating rate, and the emergence, the unknowable of what's coming in the next 5 years? Because all those devices we just looked at exist now. In 5 years, we can't even imagine what's coming with artificial intelligence and so forth. So one of the themes is that innovation will outpace regulation and legislation. Regulation moves slow. It is designed that way, so it's based on compromise and thought. Innovation is not. It is fast, and it's getting faster at a faster rate. Why? Because these companies develop a product, the product is so easy to copy, they need to capture market share quickly and become the market leader. Another challenge is that a lot of these batteries are now embedded in the devices or they're in the packaging, so they may not be removable or easy to deal with. A lot of this is happening overseas in places like China and so forth, which may have different regulations on battery labeling, on battery safety, battery standards. A lot of this comes in through the internet, sales and services. So example would be scooters. These scooters on the left came out. My sister was in California. She began telling me about all these scooters in Los Angeles. I didn't know what she was talking about. They were everywhere, like a flock of birds, on every corner. And people got really upset, began throwing them in the canals in Venice and so forth. They just appeared in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., New York. Nobody knew what to do with them because there was no regulation or legislation around them. Lime Scooters, that scooter there is actually now one of our customers. They took initiative. We recycle all their batteries, their scooters for them. They're doing the right thing, and they did that on their own voluntarily. Another example would be vape machines. We get a lot of requests to recycle vape machines, but we can't do it because of the nicotine content. But a lot of these have lithium batteries. They're like miniature toasters. If they're thrown in the trash and something heavy lands on them, they can combust and have a thermal propagation. We had a school system in Minnesota that had a lithium fire. They're collecting so many of these devices now in high schools. They don't know what to do with them. They wanted to buy 40,000 of our flame retardant boxes just to store them in. Even though we couldn't recycle the vape machines, they just wanted to store them so they didn't have fires in their schools. And this isn't just the US, this is worldwide. India, major vaping challenges. So these products, I hadn't heard of vaping 5 years ago or scooters, and now they're worldwide. So these products are going to be developed really quickly, and they're going to hit the marketplace before anything is regulated or legislated. So you have to anticipate that's coming, and you have to strategically evolve your waste facility to have a budget for recycling batteries, have a strategy, have training. It's going to be one of the most important issues in your facility in the coming years. So you got to think of recycling as environmental management and recycling as risk management when it comes to batteries. A little bit about us. So-Called Recycle, we're a nonprofit based in Atlanta, founded in 1994, 25 years ago. We have stewardship fees, so stewards, which are battery manufacturers like Duracell and Panasonic, Energizer, and so forth, they pay us fees to run a nationwide collection service. We have 16,000 collection sites around the country that we collect batteries from. We've recycled 144 million pounds of batteries in the last 25 years. We've got the largest battery recycling program in the nation, and in our opinion, one of the best. But our company has evolved, and your company is probably going to evolve too. And let me show you how we evolved. So we started off as a stewardship organization working with battery manufacturers to run this program. We built 16,000 collection facilities around the country. Then we began to get requests for batteries in people's houses. So a company like Dell Computers sends out millions of laptops a year, and some of those batteries need to be recycled, but they're at a customer's house. So we started a returns program where we mail envelopes to customers. It's called direct returns. We mail them an envelope, and then they mail that battery back to us and we recycle it. So that's called a returns program. With COVID-19, we're seeing that more requested at waste facilities around the country. People don't want to go and drop off batteries as much anymore, so states are coming to us saying, is there any way we could mail envelopes to directly to people's houses? They put batteries in the envelope and mail them back. So there's going to be more of that in the future. And then battery protection and fire suppression. We teamed up with a company called CellBlock, that fire extinguishing agent I showed you earlier. It's a Class D fire extinguisher, which is for combustible metals. And we now have a whole product line I'm going to show you of fire safety products that are specifically designed for lithium batteries. So as we've evolved following the battery trends, so likely will your facility have to evolve, because these technologies are here and they're going to grow at an exponential rate. A little bit about where batteries go. So they're collected at a site. This could be a waste facility. It could be a Lowe's, a Home Depot, a Staples. We work with most of the major retailers. They're transported, usually FedEx or UPS. They go to a warehouse. They're probably transported again to a sorting facility. The batteries are sorted by chemistry type, could be lithium, nickel, cadmium, and so forth. And then they're processed based on their chemistry type. At every step, there's potential for fire. And so we have to think about everything downstream from us and how to keep it safe. The batteries are turned into new products. Some of them, like lead. Lead is the most recycled battery. It's the most recycled product actually in the country. So 95% of lead batteries are turned into new batteries. So the battery in your car probably has lead from your grandfather's car in it. Some of the batteries are turned to stainless steel pots and pans, golf clubs, silverware. A little small amount of it ends up in asphalt and roads. Some of the zinc actually goes into like fertilizer and suntan lotion and so forth. But the big picture is that we don't want batteries going to landfills, domestic or especially overseas to third world countries. We are R2 certified. We were the first battery organization to become R2 certified. This is Sustainable Electronics Recycling International, SERI. It's a very hard certification to get. We get audited every year, and they audit us and everybody downstream from us to ensure that the batteries are handled safely for the environment and that they don't go overseas, that they aren't being dumped in the ocean, that kind of stuff. So we take it really seriously that everything downstream from us is the best for the environment. Here's some of the downstream oversight we have. So anybody who's collecting batteries for us has to go through a safety training. We've got videos and tests online to make sure that whoever's packing those batteries understands how to do it. Boxes are audited when they get to our sorters and processors. So if there's a fire in one of these boxes, we'll know. And everything is barcode scanned so we can trace it back to the site of origin. If we find that this happened at a waste facility, we'll suspend that facility, retrain them, and then let them start shipping again. If we get more fires from them, eventually we'll terminate the account. We also do a lot of robust communications and outreach across the country, marketing efforts and so forth on best way to recycle batteries. And then we also do research projects. If you're thinking about like, how do I get people in my area to recycle batteries? The research across the country in different states, it's always the same. Number one, if people aren't recycling batteries, they just don't know what to do with them. And number two, it's inconvenient. So if you want to just address two issues at your facility, let people know what to do with the batteries on your websites, at your facility, in your marketing, in your business letters and so forth. They need to know what to do with them. And number two, make it convenient. If they arrive at your facility on a really busy Saturday and they can't find a staff member and there's hundreds of people there and they're looking around and they don't know where to go, they'll just toss those batteries into a dumpster. You need to make the signage, you need to make the directions really clear that they know exactly what to do with the batteries and make it easy for them. If you don't, they do three things. Number one, they hoard the batteries in their house, which can lead to fire safety issues in their home. Number two, they throw it in the trash, which is a fire safety issue if it goes through a hauler's compactor or waste facility's compactor or machinery. Number three, they wishful recycle. Maybe they got a good heart and they throw these batteries into a blue bin thinking they'll be recycled, and they don't. They go through a shredder and they end up in a pile of shredded paper, which is the perfect kindling to start a fire. So you really have to educate people on what to do with the batteries and make it simple and convenient for them. Findability and accessibility are two parts of this. So findability means they have to know how to find where to recycle batteries. If they Google recycling batteries, they're going to find our website. They can type in their zip code into our locator, and this will pull up all these different sites around them. There could be a Home Depot, there could be a Lowe's. These are also waste facilities. It will tell them the hours of operation, tell them what type of batteries they can drop off, and it should be close to their house. About 86% of the country, of the entire population, lives within 10 miles of one of our collection facilities. So chances are they can find a place nearby. And that's what we call the accessibility metrics. You know, how many miles or what percentage of the population are within 10 miles of a collection site? So if you're not on here and you want to start a program, you just contact us. We'll have you set up within hours and we'll add you to the website, and then people will know in your town where to drop the batteries off. And that's not just for waste facilities. We also do a lot of small hardware stores, convenience stores, country stores, and so forth. So if you're a business owner, we can set up a collection site at your business too. You have to let people know on your website that you recycle batteries. Otherwise, they're going to throw lithium into their recycling bins and trash. And when they get to your facility, they have to see where to go. This is a site in Vermont. They had a sign for recycling batteries, which is great. We provide that. But this A-frame sign stand was backwards. So the sign on recycling batteries faces away from all the cars that are coming in. So people were coming in, but they were never seeing the battery recycling sign. So you want to flip this around, make it really prominent, giant red arrows if you could, let them know where to put the batteries and how to do it safely. A little bit on batteries, there's basically two types. Primary means one and done. You never recharge them. Rechargeable means you use it more than once, you keep recharging it. You can remember it from the Latin roots. Prime means one, like a prime steak, prime rib steak is the best, number one, and re means repeat, reuse. So those are the two types of batteries we deal with, primary and rechargeable. They can be difficult to identify. So a lot of batteries now come from overseas, which means they may have no labeling or confusing labeling. Every Christmas I open my daughter's toys to look at the batteries and I can't identify the chemistry types of a lot of them. There's also a lot of counterfeit batteries now coming from other countries. So this is a Canon battery. On the left is the real one, on the right is a counterfeit. You can see manufacturing wise, they're almost identical. The only difference is really that the color blue is a little bit off. These batteries have become so good now that the real manufacturer, the real batteries, oftentimes can't tell the difference between the counterfeit and their own. So people are buying batteries on the internet thinking they're the real thing. Sometimes they're counterfeit. They're made to substandard technologies, and so there's a greater potential for fires and so forth. So it's becoming complicated. These are the primary batteries we accept. Again, these are single use, you don't recharge them. It has to be less than 11 pounds. We work in what's called portable batteries, so we don't do the big car batteries, the heavy ones. There's a whole other industry that kind of takes care of that. But we do alkaline. These are your typical, Duracell, copper top, AA batteries, and so forth. And then we do lithium primary. So there's two types of lithium. One is not rechargeable. The other is rechargeable, which I'll get to in a second. But lithium primary batteries are typically these little coin cells, button cells. They are regulated. So you can't just ship these in a box because if they make terminal contact with each other, they could combust, and that lithium is highly combustible. So they look small, but they're actually really easy to short. The positive and negative terminal, the top and the bottom, are just a fraction of an inch apart. So if you had a little wire in the trash and it touched the top and the bottom, it actually shorts really easily because the distance is so small. And some of them are starting to look more like typical alkaline batteries, as you can see here. So you have to be really clear on what you're collecting, and the consumer needs to understand that lithium primary batteries are dangerous. Oh, just for reference sake, our latest study in Vermont, where I work, the amount of lithium primary batteries collected in 1 year, 2018 to 2019, increased by 100% in 1 year. So these batteries are ending up in toys, different devices. We increase collections 100% in a year, and we expect that's probably going to continue. These are the accepted rechargeable batteries. Again, they have to be less than 11 pounds. We've got nickel cadmium. These are fairly toxic. Lithium ion, combustible. Nickel metal hydride, small sealed lead acid. These are often in like exit signs, emergency signs that need to stay on when the power goes out. And nickel zinc. Lithium ion is quickly replacing nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride, and so forth. Most of the tools and lawn equipment you see nowadays, it's all switching to lithium ion. The batteries are getting bigger and bigger and more dangerous. So you're going to see more and more of these coming into your facilities. And like the lithium primary batteries, you can't just ship these normally. They have to be terminally protected because they could catch on fire. A little bit on terminal protection. Even when batteries appear dead, they still hold a residual charge. So even if you think someone's drained the battery, they still have to be terminally protected when you ship them. They can't have contact with anything else that could conduct electricity that could catch on fire. So if you don't know the battery type, when in doubt, protect it. Do terminal protection. So there are Department of Transportation guidelines, and basically it says one lithium ion battery or one lithium primary battery per packaging. So either you're going to put it in a plastic bag, we provide self-sealing bags, or you're going to wrap it with packing tape. So you have to make sure that every individual lithium battery does not have contact with any other battery or material. If you don't have plastic bags, we recommend clear packing tape. You tape it all the way around, protect both the positive and negative terminals. You could also use electrical tape, but it's not transparent, so when it ends up at a sorter, they can't identify the chemistry type. So best thing is clear plastic bags or clear packing tape. For the button cells, coin cells, lithium primary, lay down a strip of packing tape, put out the batteries, lay a second strip on top. That's the fastest way to do it. We call this a ravioli because it looks like a ravioli pasta. Again, each one has to be protected from every other device. Don't put anything else in our boxes. No grocery bags, paper bags, wax. Don't use painter's tape, peels off, masking tape, peels off, Scotch tape. Just use clear plastic bags and clear packing tape. So we've done a lot of research and development into new containers. We have patents on this box. It's Department of Transportation approved to drop from 4 feet in the air, holding 66 pounds of batteries, and it's mixed use batteries. That means you can have both rechargeable and non-rechargeable primary batteries in here of different chemistry types. It also has a pop-up display that you can put in, say, a hardware store, put it on a countertop. In places like Vermont, it's actually completely free to businesses and municipal facilities, but it's free to municipal facilities around the Northeast. It has a flame retardant liner, which we got a patent on last year. It's been third-party tested to withstand fires up to 1100 degrees. I believe a typical lithium fire is around 700 degrees. So far, no fires have breached the container of our liner. It contains the heat. This is what a fire looks like at our sorting and processors. So we'll get a box that arrives The processor opens it up. There's been a fire. They log that. They take pictures of it. They send it to us. You can see that it hasn't breached the liner here. That's what we hope for. We want to contain that fire every time so it doesn't burn down a FedEx truck. A little bit on DDR batteries. So this is specific to lithium batteries. It stands for damaged, defective, recalled batteries. So a damaged battery could be swollen, could be cracked, could be leaking. Defective is usually determined at the manufacturing stage. Maybe they sold batteries that had leaks in them. Recalled means the manufacturers recalled them. DDR is a Department of Transportation statutory term that means it only applies to lithium batteries. So basically, there's no such thing as a DDR nickel cadmium battery or a lead acid battery. DDR is specifically lithium. So just to clarify, the EPA will determine what a hazardous waste is. That's something that's toxic. So a nickel cadmium battery is toxic. You don't want that in the landfill in the water stream. Lithium ion batteries are not hazardous waste. They can go into a landfill. But the Department of Transportation determines what a hazardous material is as opposed to a hazardous waste. Lithium batteries are a hazardous material, so they can't be shipped. Even though they could go in a landfill, they can't just be shipped like other batteries because they could combust. We have an online store. You don't even need an account to use it. You can just log in with a credit card and start ordering products. I'm going to quickly go through some of our products so you can see some of the ways we've addressed these issues. I was just talking about the DDR kits. DDR batteries, when they're damaged, they have to be shipped under special permits and they need special packaging. So we provide these DDR kits. These are for the damaged lithium ion batteries. They're pre-permitted, permit 20549, that fully complies with transporting hazardous materials. What that means is you don't need what's called CFR 49 training to ship these damaged batteries. Normally, because they're a hazardous material, you would need to be CFR 49 trained, and you would need to do all the CFR 49 paperwork, which is a total pain to ship just one of these batteries. So every time you shipped one, you'd have to go through this paperwork again. Our kits are pre-permitted. So you just put the battery in, you put in this cell block material, I'm going to explain in a minute, that we saw in the video at the beginning, which is a Class D fire extinguisher. You fill that bucket with that, put it and ship it, call FedEx, and they'll take it away from you. So you're going to get more and more DDR lithium batteries in your facilities. You want to have some of these kits on hand so that you can get them out of your facility as quickly as possible, ship them, and be done with them. This is CellBlockEX. I showed that video at the beginning. It's a fire suppression material. It's really fascinating. It's made of 100% recycled glass, which is great for the environment. When a lithium fire burns, it burns really hot. And so to put it out with water is really challenging unless you've got a ton of water. If you put water in a lithium fire, you're basically creating toxic vapors. You're getting, some of them are flammable like hydrogen, but you're creating other toxic gases. And unless you keep dumping water on it for a long time, you're just creating toxic gases for your staff. So how do you get out a really hot fire? Well, these glass beads are infused with microscopic air bubbles, and that lowers the melting point. So when you pour these beads onto a lithium fire, they melt. When they go from a solid to a liquid, they suck heat out of the fire, stopping thermal propagation. That stops the lithium fire from going from battery cell to battery cell to battery cell. So the first thing it does is sucks the heat out of the fire. The second thing is those microscopic air bubbles in the glass, they suck the electrolytes out, the lithium electrolytes that are actually the fuel of the fire. So you're essentially sucking the fuel out of the hot zone. As those beads melt, they surround the battery, cut it off from oxygen. They create a silicate coating so that oxygen can't get into the fire. So when you remove heat, you remove fuel, you remove oxygen from any type of fire, you put it out. So that's what this technology does. It's rated as a Class D, specifically for combustible metals, specifically for lithium-ion battery fires. It was developed for the airline industry. If you remember when those sort of Galaxy tablets and so forth were catching on fire on airplanes, they needed a way to put those fires out without fumigating the cockpit or the cabin of an entire airplane and choking the customers. So CellBlock was developed. They have these little kits that you can throw a laptop in or a tablet, seal it. If it burns, the cell block melts and extinguishes it on the airplane. So it's safe, it's non-toxic. This is also non-toxic for employees. The cell block glass is inert, so it's not like vermiculite, which could theoretically give you cancer down the road. This is really inert, safe, healthy product. I feel like everybody should have one of these kits. This is, basically a standard lithium fire safety kit. If you get a lithium battery that's smoking on fire, you go over, you pick it up with CellBlock gloves. We provide these. They can withstand hundreds of degrees of temperature. You maybe bring that battery to a safe place outside or on the concrete. You drop one of these pads on here. This is called a PED pad. It has the cell block in it. The cell block melts, extinguishes the fire. When you're approaching one of these fires, it can be shooting sparks everywhere like a firecracker. So you hold a fire shield blanket in front of you, you put down the PED pad, then you drop the blanket over the PED pad. This is probably like 4 feet or so. It provides a second layer over the fire to keep sparks and things from flying around the facility, getting into paint containers or whatever flammable products could be around there. You want a mask and goggles just so you're not inhaling gases or getting things in your eyes. And then when the battery is safe, you drop that battery in one of our DDR kits, you ship it out of there. So every facility in the future is gonna, or really now, should be thinking to budget for this. You wanna have a way ahead of time to deal with a smoking, burning battery before it starts. Some of you may be storing batteries. Maybe you store damaged batteries and then you ship them later on in bulk because you don't wanna have to buy a DDR kit every time one comes in. You can buy these cell block drums. They're double walled, and within the walls is the cell block material. That material, number one, stops heat. So if you had a lithium fire in this drum, normally a drum would get very hot on the outside. This keeps the heat inside and actually circulates the gases and absorbs the toxic gases. You could put the DDR batteries in here and then add bags of CellBlockEX and fill it up. Then you could have dozens of batteries, and when you're ready to ship, pull them out, ship them in bulk in a safe way. So again, all these are permitted, so you don't have to do CFR 49 paperwork and so forth. Interestingly, one of the challenges of a lot of waste facilities right now is e-waste. Like I talked about at the beginning, people are throwing tablets, laptops into gaylords with televisions. Televisions are heavy. If they land on a tablet, they're gonna break it. You're gonna have lithium fires. So separating battery devices like tablets and laptops away from heavy objects like television is a good idea. So you can buy these drums and store these tablets and stuff in them until they're ready to ship, so that the tablets, the battery devices are separate from the other e-waste devices. One last thing here before we get to questions. Batteries are getting bigger. When a lithium battery reaches 300 watt hours, it's automatically a hazardous material, whether it's damaged or not. And this is important to understand because the latest, I just went to Lowe's the other day, the latest lawnmowers that are coming out, electric lawnmowers, 80-volt batteries. To find out how many watt hours that is, look on the battery, take the volts, 80 volts, multiply it by 40 amp hours, which it will say on the battery, that gives you 320 watt hours. If you try to ship this battery without following hazardous material CFR 49 procedures, you'd be breaking the law. So these electric landscaping devices are becoming more and more common because people don't like the noise of landscaping companies anymore. They don't want to hear the lawnmowers, they don't want to hear the weed whackers and so forth. In fact, some cities are putting in noise regulations. They also don't want the pollution, the fumes that come from these devices. So all of landscaping, these types of devices are quickly changing to electric, and the batteries are going to be big. And I've already heard from a lot of facilities that are in sort of higher, more affluent areas like the coast of New Hampshire, that they're getting these devices every month now in their facilities, these giant batteries. They want to know what to do with them. So starting in September, we will have a new kit that is pre-permitted for 300 watt hours to 800 watt hours. It was specifically designed to handle these sort of landscaping batteries, these electric tool batteries, and also these longer e-bike batteries. E-bikes have come a long way. These batteries are big, they last for hours. And so we've got a kit now for recycling these. They're probably not in your facilities yet. There's a lag between industry and waste. So we get a lot of calls right now from e-bike manufacturers, e-bike rental shops saying, hey, what do I do with these batteries? But in a couple of years, those batteries are going to be in your waste facilities, people bringing their electric bike batteries to you. So when that day happens, you can call us, we'll have a kit, we'll ship it to you, and then you can recycle these larger batteries. That covered a lot. We still have time for some questions, about 10 minutes. Again, my name is Sean Plasse. That's my email. So if I don't get to your questions now, please email me, and I'm happy to help keep your facility safe. And thanks to the NRRA for having me.
Thank you, Sean. That was excellent. I learned so much. We have a couple of questions that are in. You mentioned about regulation and that it's behind the innovation of all these materials. You know, as far as regulations go, do you hear of anything, you know, currently in the process, or, you know, what do you know about the legislation about these materials so far?
So most of the country is voluntary programs. There's some states that have some regulation on rechargeable batteries. The only one that has regulation on primary batteries, the non-rechargeable, is Vermont, where I live. That's a unique program. Some states or some areas like Washington, D.C. is looking at an all battery recycling legislation. Not sure if that will pass. There were some other states like Maine, which were going to do something similar, but a lot of them just stopped legislating this year because of COVID and so forth. One that is unique in California is a new outreach program for lithium batteries that the state is going to regulate, sort of requiring better education on lithium, because they're getting so many lithium batteries. They really want to mandate that lithium is acknowledged and addressed specifically. So that's kind of the newest thing happening. That's sort of the first lithium focused legislation. The battery industry was working with the legislators to try and craft that. I'm not sure what stage it's at right now, but that would probably be the next coming thing.
That leads to the next question. I was just wondering if Cold Recycle, or do you have any connections to talk with producers of products with lithium batteries? There needs to be extended producer responsibility, like for the example of, you know, when batteries are embedded in a toy and cannot be removed, like, you know, talking to the producer to start off with.
So we've got 300 manufacturers that we work with. So examples would be, say, Black & Decker, which makes a lot of tools, or the Lime scooters, or Dell computers. Other ones would be like battery, just straight up battery, like Duracell, Panasonic, Energizer. So we're in constant contact, and every week I get people reaching out. For example, the other day I had a customer who's making the world's greatest dog collar, smart dog collar. It's basically like an Apple Watch for dogs. It will track how many steps they take, their heart rate, all that kind of stuff. And then it sends all that data directly to the vet or the dog walker. So everybody can look at a dashboard of this dog's health and say, this dog's overweight, needs to walk another 1,000 steps a day.
Wow.
So a lot of these manufacturers, the US ones anyway, are coming to us now saying, what do we do? Help us, you know, like Lime scooters and so forth. And so we are rapidly expanding the product line. The challenge for us is that a lot of these batteries are made overseas and they don't participate. So we did a survey in Vermont of how many brands were sold into the state. We logged 75,000 batteries that were collected, all the brands and logos and so forth. Of the, I think it was 1,000 roughly, I think it was 1,500 brands that we collected, only about 250 were actually paying into the legislative program. So you had, I think it was 1,028 of these brands weren't even participating. They were coming in from China and so forth. Now, a lot of them were coming in really small amounts, but they're coming in through embedded products like toys, that type of stuff, which aren't covered by the program. In Canada, which has regulated provinces, embedded products are covered. So if it's sold in the packaging, if it's sold in the device, they have to pay into the program, those manufacturers, or it happens actually at the point of sale. So that's called an EHF program. So different states, different countries, the European Union, everybody's approaching this differently. We're doing what we can in the US. The rest of the world is kind of doing it on their own.
Right. Interesting. We have another question coming in. What is the state of graphene battery technology, And when will it supplant lithium ion?
That's a great question. Very nerdy, very scientific. There is a ton of money going into battery research right now across the world, and the advances are pretty amazing. I don't know specifically when graphene will reach a market level, but it's a very promising technology. What's happening is a lot of these articles are coming out on the latest battery advancement, but really what it is to gain more research money. So scientists will say, hey, we developed this new product, and then they'll get research grants. Or a company says, we developed this new product, and then venture capitalists come in and give them more money. So that's where that's at. But in terms of scale, lithium battery manufacturing is enormous. The capacity now, like Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada and so forth, lithium batteries are so cheap and affordable now that they are the battery that will be here for at least the next decade, in my opinion. And chances are those companies are also investing in new technologies, but right now it's about manufacturing lithium at a massive scale that's really affordable, and then optimizing those lithium batteries so they're as small and light and powerful as possible.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think you covered this in your explanation. It came in earlier about the cell block technology. I think when people hear about fire retardants, they're concerned about PFAS and that sort of thing. It doesn't sound like cell block. It sounds like it's glass, so it doesn't have that additive in the fire as a fire retardant, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's what's so great about it is it's basically a glass bead made of 100% post-consumer glass, and then they're just infusing it with air bubbles, just like the air we breathe. So it's unique in its physical properties as opposed to its chemical properties. So it doesn't have dust that you would get from vermiculite, which is easy to inhale. And if you do inhale some of that dust, it's not toxic. And when it melts, it's not off-gassing new toxic chemicals when it combines with the lithium and so forth. So really, it's very chemically inert, but mechanically unique.
Excellent. And I have a last personal question for you. What kind of lawnmower do you have? Do you have one of those lawnmower?
I do not have an electric lawnmower, but I have got a ton of electrical devices now, and my family has an electric lawnmower, my parents, and I've got a number of friends, because I used to work at Tesla, who have Model 3 Tesla vehicles. I've probably got 6 friends who got the Model 3s. Interestingly, they're renting them out. Most of them rent them out. It's called like Turo, which is like an app for renting cars, like the Airbnb of cars. So people fly into Vermont, they need to rent a car for the weekend. They're traveling. They rent my friend's Model 3, drive around for a few days. He makes a profit. And when those cars become self-driving, that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be renting them out from an app, and the car will drive over, pick someone up at the airport. So I'm surrounded by it right now. I see it's here. It's going to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for such an informative presentation. I learned a lot for sure. I wanted to thank our sponsors for the summer webinar series. If you could do the next slide. We have the Interstate Refrigerant Recovery Incorporated, Schnitzer, and USDA. And I want to remind everyone the survey will launch immediately after this webinar. It'll also appear in your email inbox one day later. As a reminder, we welcome feedback. Next slide. On Friday, we will continue our webinar series with reuse because you can't recycle the planet with Alex Eves. He's a reuse expert on Friday at noon. And then next Wednesday, July 22nd, we'll have a webinar on disposal capacity across 3 states. Representatives Jeff Boudreau from Vermont DEC, Michael Nork from New Hampshire DES, and John Fisher from Massachusetts DES. Thank you all, and have a happy summer from NRRA.